Assalamu alaikum, dear students. We have studied in part first some of the well-known methods of collecting primary data, direct personal investigation, indirect oral investigation. Now we will study the third method of collecting primary data, that is information from local sources or correspondents. Under this method, the investigator appoints local persons or correspondents at different places. They collect information in their own way and furnish the same to the investigator. Now, what is suitability of this method? This method is suitable particularly when regular and continuous information is needed. Also, it's suitable when the area of investigation is very large and when the information is to be used by the journals, magazines, radio, TV, etc. Then this method is suitable for that. And this method is also suitable when a very high degree of accuracy of information is not required. Now, what are the merits of this method? The first merit of this method is that it's economical. This method is quite economical in terms of time, money, and efforts involved, right? And this is the first merit of this method of collecting data. Now, we had discussed that earlier also. Uh, the second point here is its second merit is wide coverage. Wide coverage, this method allows a fairly wide coverage of investigation because the investigator appoints local persons at different places. So there is wide coverage of investigation. And now number third point here is continuity. The correspondents keep on supplying almost regular information to the investigator, so there is continuity as well. And it's suitable for the special purpose. It's one of the merit of this method that it's suitable for special purpose. This method is particularly suitable for some special investigation. For example, price quotations from the different grain markets for the construction of index number of agricultural prices. Now, what are its demerits? First point here is loss of originality. See, originality of data is sacrificed owing to the lack of personal contact with the respondents. Now you know that the investigator does not contact personally the respondents. He get the information from his correspondents. So there is a loss of originality, right? And second point is lack of uniformity. There is also lack of uniformity uh, because of the same reason. He is not personally contacting the respondents. He is getting the information from different correspondents. See, this is because the data is collected by the number of correspondents, so there is lack of uniformity of data. Now, third point here is personal bias. This method suffers from the personal bias of the correspondents as well. The fourth point is less accurate. Now, the data collected by this method are not very accurate because the investigator does not collect information himself. He is getting it from different correspondents. So, also, one more demerit of this method is delay in collection. Generally, there is a delay in the collection of information through this method. It's because he is collecting the information from correspondents at different places. Now we will discuss the another method, that's information through questionnaires and schedules. See, under this method, the investigator prepares a questionnaire keeping in view the objective of the inquiry. There are two types or two ways of collecting information on the basis of questionnaire. Two ways of collecting information on the basis of questionnaire. Number one is mailing method, and number second is enumerators method. Now what is mailing method? Under this method, questionnaires are mailed to the informants. A letter is attached with the questionnaire giving the purpose of inquiry. It's also assured that the information would be kept secret. The informant notes the answers against the questions and return the completed questionnaire to the investigator. Now, when it's suitable, this mailing method, it's suitable when the area of study is very wide. He can use mailing method here. And it's also suitable when the informants are educated, because the informants, no, they had to give answers, they had to write down the answers, so they need to be educated. So informants are educated, then they can give the answers through mailing method. And what are its merits? Number one is economical. This is also economical in terms of time, money, and efforts involved. And it's original. This method is, why is it original? Because this method is original, therefore freely reliable, because he's getting the information from the informants here through mailing method. And it's also because the information is duly supplied by the concerned person themselves, and they are mailing this questionnaire back with answers to the investigator. Now, another point is wide coverage. So this method also allows the wide coverage of the area of study. Now what are its demerits? Number one is lack of interest. See, generally the informants do not take interest in questionnaires and fail to return the questionnaires. Those who return often send incomplete answers. So this is one of the demerit of the mailing method. And the second is lack of flexibility. This method lacks flexibility. When the questions are not properly replied, these cannot be changed to obtain the required information because of the lack of flexibility. And one more point here is limited use. This method has a limited use owing to the fact that questionnaires can be answered only by the educated informants. Thus, this method cannot be used when the informants are uneducated. So, it has limited use. Now, another point is biased. If the informants are biased, then the information will also be biased. Okay, and the last point is less accuracy. The conclusions based on such investigation have only limited accuracy. This is because some questions may be difficult and consequently accurate answers may not be offered. Now this is mailing method. Now we will study enumerators method. See, under this method, a questionnaire is prepared according to the purpose of the inquiry. The enumerator himself approached the informant with the questionnaire. The questionnaires, which are filled by the enumerator themselves by putting questions, are called schedules. Thus, under this method, the enumerator himself fills the schedules after seeking information from the informants. Enumerators are those persons who help the investigator in collecting the data. Now, the enumerator are given the training to fulfill the schedules and put the questions intelligently to obtain accurate information. See, the enumerator is a person who actually collects the desired statistical information or statistical data. Often, the enumerators are trained personnel hired by the investigator for field work. And one more, there's a basic difference between the questionnaire and a schedule. See, both show a set of questions, but in case of questionnaire, the answers are to be recorded or written by the respondent themselves, while in case of schedules, the answers are to be written, recorded or written by the enumerators specially hired for the purpose. So this is the basic difference between questionnaire and schedule. See, now when this method, enumerators in method is suitable, this method is mostly used when the field of investigation is large. It's also used when the investigation needs specialized and skilled investigators, and when the investigators are well versed in the local language and cultural norms of the informants. Now, what are its merits? Wide coverage. This method is capable of wide coverage in terms of area involved. Even illiterates can furnish the required information on this method. And second point here is accuracy. There is fair degree of accuracy in the results. This is because the investigation is done by the mm, specialized enumerators, a personal contact. Unlike in the case of mailing questionnaires, there is a personal contact with the informants in this method. Accordingly, accurate and right answers are obtained. And impartiality. This method is impartial. This is because the enumerators themselves do not need the required information. So they are impartial to the nature of information that they obtain. And completeness, schedules have the merit of completeness because they are filled by the enumerators themselves. Okay, and its demerits, number one is expensive. It's very expensive method of investigation because of the involvement of the trained investigators. Number second point is availability of enumerators. See, competent enumerators may not be available. Accuracy of the information accordingly suffers. And the demerit here is time consuming. So enumerators may need specialized training for particular investigation. The process of investigation thus becomes time consuming, and it's not suitable for private investigation. Since this method is very expensive, it's generally not suitable for private investigation. This method is generally used by the government institutions. And partial. If the enumerators are biased, then the data will not be accurate, right?